Dove. Doves are often seen as symbols of peace, spirituality, hope, renewal, transformation, and love, explains Johanna Augusta, numerologist and owner of the Ministry of Numerology. They can also represent compassion and kindness to others during difficult transitions.
Columbidae, is a bird family consisting of doves and pigeons. It is the only family in the order Columbiformes. These are stout-bodied birds with short necks and short slender bills that in some species feature fleshy cirrus. They primarily feed on seeds, fruits, and plants. The family occurs worldwide, but the greatest variety is in the Indo-Malayan and Australasian realms. The family contains 344 species divided into 50 genera. 13 of the species are extinct. In English, the smaller species tend to be called doves and the larger ones pigeons. However, the distinction is not consistent and does not exist in most other languages. Historically, the common names for these birds involve a great deal of variation among the terms. The bird most commonly referred to as just pigeon is the domestic pigeon, which is common in many cities as the feral pigeon. Doves and pigeons build relatively flimsy nests, often using sticks and other debris, which may be placed on branches of trees, on ledges, or on the ground, depending on species. They lay one or, usually, 2 white eggs at a time, and both parents care for the young, which leave the nest after 25 to 32 days. Unfledged baby doves and pigeons are called squabs and are generally able to fly by 5 weeks of age. These fledglings, with their mature squeaking voices, are called squeakers once they are weaned. Unlike most birds, both sexes of doves and pigeons produce crop milk to feed to their young, secreted by a sloughing of fluid-filled cells from the lining of the crop. The name Columbidae for the family was introduced by the English zoologist William Elford Leach in a guide to the contents of the British Museum, published in 1819. Columbidae is the only living family in the order Columbiformes. The Sancharos, Heraclidae, were formerly placed here, but were moved to a separate order, Heracliformes, based on anatomical differences such as the inability to drink by sucking or pumping. The Columbidae are usually divided into 5 subfamilies, probably inaccurately. For example, the American ground and quail doves, Geotrigon, which are usually placed in the Columbidae, seem to be 2 distinct subfamilies. The order presented here follows Baptiste et al., 1997, with some updates. The arrangement of genera and naming of subfamilies is in some cases provisional because analyses of different DNA sequences yield results that differ, often radically, in the placement of certain mainly Indo-Australian genera. This ambiguity, probably caused by long branch attraction, seems to confirm the first pigeons evolved in the Australasian region, and that the Pteronidae and allied forms, crowned and pheasant pigeons, for example, represent the earliest radiation of the group. The family Columbidae previously also contained the family Rhaphidae, consisting of the extinct Rodriguez solitaire and the dodo. These species are in all likelihood part of the Indo-Australian radiation that produced the 3 small subfamilies mentioned above, with the fruit doves and pigeons including the Nicobar pigeon. Therefore, they are here included as a subfamily Rhaphidae, pending better material evidence of their exact relationships. Exacerbating these issues, columbids are not well represented in the fossil record. No truly primitive forms have been found to date. The genus Gerardia has been described from early Miocene deposits in France, but while it was long believed to be a pigeon, it is now considered a Santarouse. Fragmentary remains of a probably Delinopene early Miocene pigeon were found in the Bannockburn Formation of New Zealand and described as Rupifapes. Columbina prati from roughly contemporary deposits of Florida is nowadays tentatively separated in Columba, but its distinction from Columbina or Scardifella and related genera needs to be more firmly established, for example, by cladistic analysis. Apart from that, all other fossils belong to extant genera.
Doves represent communication with one's own intuition and the emotional language of others to find inner balance, healing, peace, and joy. They are associated with the third chakra, linked to creativity, verbal and emotional expression, and discerning the truth. Doves are a symbol of divine love flowing into your life, which is reflected in how you express your highest truth and sense of self. The presence of doves may make you feel as if compassion is overtaking you. They can awaken the empathic nature in you, which allows you to deeply connect with the spiritual flow that weaves us into the energetic fabric of reality. Doves can open your heart, allowing you to receive love, give love, and recognize that you are loved. If a dove appears to you in synchronistic ways, now is the best time to tap into the rich emotional bank account that is being filled right now. You may be more receptive to creative ideas, new relationships, spiritual insights, and a desire to connect more intensely with your experiences in life. Something is waking up inside you that is wanting to love life more deeply and with more passion. In ancient Mesopotamia, doves were prominent animal symbols of Inanna Ishtar, the goddess of love, sexuality, and war. Doves are shown on cultic objects associated with Inanna as early as the beginning of the 3rd millennium BC. Lead dove figurines were discovered in the Temple of Ishtar at Assur, dating to the 13th century BC, and a painted fresco from Mari, Syria, shows a giant dove emerging from a palm tree in the Temple of Ishtar, indicating that the goddess herself was sometimes believed to take the form of a dove. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim releases a dove in a raven-defined land. The dove merely circles and returns. Only then does Utnapishtim send forth the raven, which does not return, and Utnapishtim concludes the raven has found land. In the ancient Levant, doves were used as symbols for the Canaanite mother goddess Asherah. The ancient Greek word for dove was peristera, which may be derived from the Semitic phrase perister, meaning bird of Ishtar. In classical antiquity, doves were sacred to the Greek goddess Aphrodite, who absorbed this association with doves from Inanna Ishtar. Aphrodite frequently appears with doves in ancient Greek pottery. The Temple of Aphrodite Pandemus, on the southwest slope of the Athenian Acropolis, was decorated with relief sculptures of doves with knotted fillets in their beaks and votive offerings of small, white, marble doves were discovered in the Temple of Aphrodite at Daphne. During Aphrodite's main festival, the Aphrodisia, her altars would be purified with the blood of a sacrificed dove. Aphrodite's associations with doves influenced the Roman goddesses Venus and Fortuna, causing them to become associated with doves as well. In the Hebrew Bible, doves or young pigeons are acceptable burnt offerings for those who cannot afford a more expensive animal. In Genesis, Noah sends a dove out of the ark, but it came back to him because the flood waters had not receded. 7 days later, he sent it again and it came back with an olive branch in her mouth, indicating the waters had receded enough for an olive tree to grow. Dove is also a term of endearment in the Song of Songs and elsewhere. In Hebrew, Jonah means dove. The Song of Jonathan is related to the son of the dove. Jesus' parents sacrificed doves on his behalf after his circumcision, Luke 2:24. Later, the Holy Spirit descended upon Jesus at his baptism like a dove. Matthew, and subsequently the peace dove became a common Christian symbol of the Holy Spirit. In Islam, doves in the pigeon family in general are respected and favored because they are believed to have assisted the final prophet of Islam, Muhammad, peace be upon him, God, in distracting his enemies outside a cave of Thor, in the Great Hijrah. A pair of pigeons had built a nest and laid eggs at once, and a spider had woven cobwebs, which in the darkness of the night made the fugitives believe that Muhammad could not be in that cave.
Pigeons and doves exhibit considerable variation in size, ranging in length from 15 to 75 centimeters, 5.9 to 29.5 in, and in weight from 30 grams, 0.066 lb, to above 2,000 grams, 4.4 lb. The largest species is the crowned pigeon of New Guinea, which is nearly turkey-sized, at a weight of 2 to 4 kilograms, 4.4 to 8.8 lb. The smallest is the common ground dove, Columbina passerine, of the genus Columbina, which is the same size as a house sparrow, weighing as little as 22 grams, 0.049 lb. The dwarf fruit dove, which may measure as little as 13 centimeters, 5.1 in, has a marginally smaller total length than any other species from this family. One of the largest arboreal species, the Marquesan imperial pigeon, currently battles extinction. Anatomy and physiology. Overall, the anatomy of Columbidae is characterized by short legs, short bills with a fleshy cere, and small heads on large, compact bodies. Like some other birds, the Columbidae have no gallbladders. Some medieval naturalists concluded they have no bile, gall, which in the medieval theory of the four humors explained the allegedly sweet disposition of doves. In fact, however, they do have bile, as Aristotle had earlier realized, which is secreted directly into the gut. The wings are large, and have 11 primary feathers. Pigeons have strong wing muscles. Wing muscles comprise 31 to 44% of their body weight, and are among the strongest flyers of all birds. In a series of experiments in 1975 by Dr. Mark B. Friedman, using doves, their characteristic head bobbing was shown to be due to their natural desire to keep their vision constant. It was shown yet again in a 1978 experiment by Dr. Barry J. Frost, in which pigeons were placed on treadmills. It was observed that they did not bob their heads, as their surroundings were constant. Feathers. Columbidae have unique body feathers, with the shaft being generally broad, strong, and flattened, tapering to a fine point, abruptly. In general, the aftershaft is absent. However, small ones on some tail and wing feathers may be present. Body feathers have very dense, fluffy bases, are attached loosely into the skin, and drop out easily, possibly serving as a predator avoidance mechanism. Large numbers of feathers fall out in the attacker's mouth if the bird is snatched, facilitating the bird's escape. The plumage of the family is variable. Granivorous species tend to have dull plumage, with a few exceptions, whereas the frugivorous species have brightly colored plumage. The Dolinerpus, fruit doves, are some of the brightest colored pigeons, with the three endemic species of Fiji and the Indian Ocean Alectronus being the brightest. Pigeons and doves may be sexually monochromatic or dichromatic. In addition to bright colors, pigeons may sport crest or other ornamentation. Columbidae are excellent flyers due to the lift provided by their large wings, which results in low wing loading. They are highly maneuverable in flight and have a low aspect ratio due to the width of their wings, allowing for quick flight launches and ability to escape from predators, but at a high energy cost. The rock dove has been domesticated for hundreds of years. It has been bred into several varieties kept by hobbyists, of which the best known is the homing pigeon or racing homer. Other popular breeds are tumbling pigeons such as the Birmingham roller, and fancy varieties that are bred for certain physical characteristics, such as large feathers on the feet or fan-shaped tails. Domesticated rock pigeons are also bred as carrier pigeons, used for thousands of years to carry brief written messages, and release doves used in ceremonies. White doves are also used for entertainment and amusement, as they are capable of solving puzzles and performing intricate tricks. A variant called the Zito, bred for its speed, may be used in live pigeon shooting. Feeding. As for food, seeds and fruit form the major component of the diets of pigeons and doves. In fact, the family can be divided into the seed-eating or granivorous species, subfamily Columbinae, and the fruit and mast-eating or frugivorous species, the other four subfamilies. The granivorous species typically feed on seed found on the ground, whereas the frugivorous species tend to feed in trees. There are morphological adaptations that can be used to distinguish between the two groups. Granivores tend to have thick walls in their gizzards, intestines, and esophagi, whereas the frugivores tend to have thin walls. In addition, fruit-eating species have short intestines, whereas those that eat seeds have longer ones. Frugivores are capable of clinging to branches and even hang upside down to reach fruit. In addition to fruit and seeds, a number of other food items are taken by many species. Some, particularly the ground doves and quail doves, eat a large number of prey items such as insects and worms. One species, the atoll fruit dove, is specialized in taking insect and reptile prey. Snails, moths, and other insects are taken by white-crowned pigeons, orange fruit doves, and ruddy ground doves. Urban feral pigeons, descendants of domestic rock doves, Columbia livia, reside in urban environments, disturbing their natural feeding habits. They depend on human activities and interactions to obtain food, causing them to forage for spilled food or food provided by humans. Several species of pigeons and doves are used as food. Some people eat them, however, all types are edible. Domesticated or hunted pigeons have been used as the source of food since the times of the ancient Middle East, ancient Rome, and medieval Europe. It is familiar meat within Jewish, Arab, and French cuisines. According to the Tanakh, doves are kosher, and they are the only birds that may be used for a korban. Other kosher birds may be eaten, but not brought as a korban. Pigeon is also used in Asian cuisines, such as Chinese, Assamese, and Indonesian cuisines. In Europe, the wood pigeon is commonly shot as a game bird, while rock pigeons were originally domesticated as a food species, and many breeds were developed for their meat-bearing qualities. The extinction of the passenger pigeon in North America was at least partly due to shooting for use as food. Mrs. Beaton's Book of Household Management contains recipes for roast pigeon and pigeon pie, a popular, inexpensive food in Victorian industrial Britain. Pigeons and doves are distributed everywhere on Earth, except for the driest areas of the Sahara Desert, Antarctica and its surrounding islands, and the high Arctic. They have colonized most of the world's oceanic islands, reaching eastern Polynesia and the Chatham Islands in the Pacific, Mauritius, the Seychelles and Réunion in the Indian Ocean, and the Azores in the Atlantic Ocean. The family has adapted to most of the habitats available on the planet. These species may be arboreal, terrestrial, or semi-terrestrial. Various species also inhabit savanna, grassland, desert, temperate woodland and forest, mangrove forest, and even the barren sands and gravels of atolls. Some species have large natural ranges. The ear dove ranges across the entirety of South America from Colombia to Tierra del Fuego. The Eurasian collared dove has a massive, if discontinuous, distribution from Britain across Europe, the Middle East, India, Pakistan and China, and the laughing dove across most of sub-Saharan Africa, as well as India, Pakistan, and the Middle East. Other species have tiny, restricted distributions. This is most common in island endemics. The whistling dove is endemic to the tiny Kadivu Island in Fiji. The Caroline ground dove is restricted to 2 islands, Truk and Popi in the Caroline Islands, and the Grenada dove is restricted to Grenada in the Caribbean. Some continental species also have tiny distributions. For example, the black-banded fruit dove is restricted to a small area of the Arnhem Land of Australia. The Somali pigeon is restricted to a tiny area of northern Somalia, and Merino's ground dove is restricted to the area around Salta and Tucumán in northern Argentina. The largest range of any species is that of the rock dove. This species had a large natural distribution from Britain and Ireland to northern Africa, across Europe, Arabia, Central Asia, India, the Himalayas and up into China and Mongolia. The range of the species increased dramatically upon domestication, as the species went feral in cities around the world. The species is currently resident across most of North America, and has established itself in cities and urban areas in South America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. The species is not the only pigeon to have increased its range due to the actions of man. Several other species have become established outside of their natural range after escaping captivity, and other species have increased their natural ranges due to habitat changes caused by human activity. A 2020 study found that the east coast of the U.S. includes 2 pigeon genetic megacities, in New York and Boston, and the birds do not mix together. While many species of pigeons and doves have benefited from human activities and have increased their ranges, many other species have declined in numbers and some have become threatened or even succumbed to extinction. Among the 10 species to have become extinct since 1600, the conventional date for estimating modern extinctions are 2 of the most famous extinct species, the dodo and the passenger pigeon. The passenger pigeon was exceptional for a number of reasons. In modern times, it is the only pigeon species that was not an island species to have become extinct, even though it was once the most numerous species of bird on Earth. Its former numbers are difficult to estimate, but one ornithologist, Alexander Wilson, estimated one flock he observed contained over 2 billion birds. The decline of the species was abrupt. In 1871, a breeding colony was estimated to contain over 100 million birds, yet the last individual in the species was dead by 1914. Although habitat loss was a contributing factor, the species is thought to have been massively overhunted, being used as food for slaves and, later, the poor, in the United States throughout the 19th century. The dodo, and its extinction, was more typical of the extinctions of pigeons in the past. Like many species that colonize remote islands with few predators, it lost much of its predator avoidance behavior, along with its ability to fly. The arrival of people, along with a suite of other introduced species such as rats, pigs, and cats, quickly spelled the end for this species and all the other island forms that have become extinct. Around 59 species of pigeons and doves are threatened with extinction today, about 19% of all species. Most of these are tropical and live on islands. All of the species are threatened by introduced predators, habitat loss, hunting, or a combination of these factors. In some cases, they may be extinct in the wild, as is the Socorro dove of Socorro Island, Mexico, last seen in the wild in 1972, driven to extinction by habitat loss and introduced feral cats. In some areas, a lack of knowledge means the true status of a species is unknown. The Negros fruit dove has not been seen since 1953, and may or may not be extinct. And the Polynesian ground dove is classified as critically endangered, as whether it survives or not on remote islands in the far west of the Pacific Ocean is unknown. Various conservation techniques are employed to prevent these extinctions, including laws and regulations to control hunting pressure, the establishment of protected areas to prevent further habitat loss, the establishment of captive populations for reintroduction back into the wild, ex situ conservation, and the translocation of individuals to suitable habitats to create additional populations.
The blue pigeons are a genus, Electronus, of birds in the dove and pigeon family Columbidae. They are native to islands in the western Indian Ocean. The pigeon was used in both World War I and World War II, notably by the Australian, French, German, American, and UK forces. They were also awarded for their service with various laurels throughout. On December 2, 1943, 3 pigeons, Winky, Tyke, and White Vision, serving with Britain's Royal Air Force, were awarded the first Dickin Medal for rescuing an Air Force crew during World War II. 32 pigeons have been decorated with the Dickin Medal, citing their brave service and war contributions, including Commando, G.I. Joe, Patty, Royal Blue, and William of Orange. Jeremy, a homing pigeon in World War I, was awarded the Croix de Guerre Medal by France with a palm oak leaf cluster for his service in Verdun. Despite having almost lost a leg and being shot in the chest, he managed to travel around 25 miles to deliver the message that saved 194 men of the lost battalion of the 77th Infantry Division in the Battle of the Argonne in October 1918. When Jeremy died, he was mounted in as part of the permanent exhibit at the National Museum of American History of the Smithsonian Institution. A grand ceremony was held in Buckingham Palace to commemorate a platoon of pigeons that braved the battlefields of Normandy to deliver vital plans to Allied forces on the fringes of Germany. 3 of the actual birds that received the medals are on show in the London Military Museum, so that well-wishers can pay their respects. In Brussels, there is a monument commemorating pigeons that served in World War I, the Monument aux Pigeons Saudet. We should make use of things, objects, animals, that symbolize peace, harmony, and love, more often than using heretical signs that indicate violence and war. We don't need to create a disaster to end this world. Let's wait in love and peace for the Creator to end it himself. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoy my Radio Man. See you next time.